Welcome to Guitar Gavel, a place for people who love guitars. These are conversations with musicians, guitar enthusiasts, techs, and collectors about their guitar journey and their love of the instrument. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button, share with your friends, and be sure to sign up for our twice weekly newsletter at guitargavel.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Guitar Gavel podcast. I'm David Still, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time. Listen, I would encourage you, if you like what you see, leave a great review. That certainly helps me and the podcast out. It also helps our guest out. And on that note, with our guest, me and Dave were talking a few minutes ago offline. If we touch on something and we don't fully cover it and you've got questions, hey, drop that in the comments. I'll alert Dave. He'll circle back around and we'll get those questions answered because he's got a great story and lots of insight. So my guest today is Dave White. We're different time zones, man. He's over in the UK, and I'm glad he can be here. Dave, thanks so much for your time. Real quick, among a number of things, Dave is a guitar tech. He's got his own pickup manufacturing business, which we'll talk about, does a little record producing, and he's got a song catalog for, you'll have to steer me here, Dave, but for shows or for someone that's looking for licensed music beds, he can do it or customize it. So Dave, dude, thanks so much for being on the show. I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you. It's something new for me.
Hey, well, I'm still figuring it out too. So we'll kind of we'll roll with it together. And this is about your guitar story, your journey, and how it's impacted your life. Which you're in the music business professionally, so we'll get to hear all about that. But it typically starts with that first guitar. So tell us about that and how old you were and how it all began.
Wow. My first guitar.
If you can remember.
Yeah. Well, it was shared. It was a shared guitar. It was my dad's. It was a 12-string Kasuga. It was like an 80s, probably 80s guitar. And I sort of picked it up one day and just started messing around. And then he was like, "Do you want me to show you some chords?" And it only had 6 strings on it as well. So it was, nice. It had a really, really fat neck on it. And then so he was like, "Yeah, I'll show you some chords and stuff." And that was it. I was off. The first, the first song he showed me was Mull of Kintyre.
Nice.
And then, that was it. I was off. And then finally persuaded my mum and dad to get me an electric guitar. And then that was it. Chaos ever since.
How old approximately how old were you when you got that electric?
I was 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 15. It was Epiphone SG. Back when they were a bit better than they are now.
It's all good. You don't have to sugarcoat.
Yeah. But it's like a mid 90s. So what, I was 15, that'd be like 95. So it was all right. It was all right. And then I got I swapped out the bridge pickup as well for a DiMarzio Tone Zone. Nice. Because I just wanted more metal.
Yeah.
And I had a Boss MT2 pedal as well. Which
you were in business.
Yeah, now is an absolute classic. Everyone loves those pedals, and they did back then. But then everyone sort of didn't like them for a while after that, and now there seems to be a bit of a resurgence.
Do you still have it?
No. Yeah. I wish I did. But there's loads of them around, so I could, if I really ever wanted one, I'm sure I could buy one. But there is a plug-in as well now. They've done somebody did a plug-in. So I've got that on my computer, which is good.
There you go. Yeah. It's kind of the way of the world these days. Yeah. What when you were in high school, did you crank up with a band? Did you take lessons or self-taught?
Self-taught. I'm shocking at lessons all, and I had a few lessons, and I kind of it's my own fault because I tried to run before I could walk because I wanted to play jazz. I always found jazz guitar really interesting, but it's too difficult to play. So I learned a few jazz chords, and I was like, wow, that's good enough for me. I can incorporate that into something. And then, the rest of it's sort of a long story of being self-taught and taking a lot longer to learn things than it would have if I had lessons.
So, yeah, but that's okay. That's most of our stories.
It is, yeah. But yeah, and then some, a band with some friends, setting the sights for stardom. Which, I told my careers advisor when I was about, I think I was maybe 16, something like that. I said I wanted to be a rock star, and they said, "Well, you've got to choose something more realistic." So I didn't.
Yeah, and it's worked out.
For rock stars.
It's worked out pretty well. So with the Epiphone SG, you start playing with the band. Did you stick not necessarily with that band, but playing in bands for a while, or was that kind of a fit? I hate to say phase, but a few year thing and done.
Yeah, I mean, the first band I was in with my friends, we did that for a couple of years, and then I went to college and met other people, and I was studying music, so we had to. Part of that was you had to be in a band with everybody at some point, so that was cool because I got to be in bands with loads of other people. Although about 95% of people on the course would play guitar, so it was a lot of the same songs.
That's cool, but you got to see. I mean, though you had played in a band before, by being forced to rotate through with other players, what those dynamics are like and how challenging it can be, especially certainly somewhere in there, maybe one of the groups you were with was you weren't all of like-minded. Maybe you were, but you realize, this can be a challenge if you got the wrong set of dudes you're playing with.
Yeah, I mean, it totally depended on, because it wasn't a massive group, but it was enough for at the end of it, because you had to do a performance at the end of every term. So it was enough to not be in the same band all the time with all the same people. It was good that you ended up so with everyone. And then some people did actually form bands from that. They went, oh, this combination works well, so we're gonna go and do some gigs in other places. And yeah, we met a couple of other people, and yeah, formed a few bands, did some interesting things. That's where the sort of jazz stuff came from, where I wanted to learn jazz because I wanted to, I don't know what I wanted to do. It was, anyway.
No, I know what you wanted. You wanted to fuse it, man. You wanted to bridge it, somehow insert that jazz into everything else. Yeah.
It was kind of like I was listening to a lot of Mr. Bungle and that sort of thing, and I was trying to do that mad sort of whatever it is that they do, and it didn't quite work. It was kind of a bit more of a poppy version of it. It was just a bit meh. It was all right though. We enjoyed it.
That's cool. So after school, what was your playing? Not what was your playing like? What did you continue playing bands after college, or how did you kind of weave that into your career in the industry?
Well, from playing in bands, I knew other people, and there was one local band that had started doing okay. They just got a small record deal, and they had a show down in London. I live like in the north of England, so they said, "Oh, we need someone to drive us to London. Can you drive us to London?" So, yeah, fine. I was working in local venues. I was, sort of sound engineering and doing that, which it was again, it's another good learning curve, and you had to listen to some really weird, bands coming through. But it was all good, it was really, really interesting. And then, once you start touring with the band, I was just driving them around, and then, they go on tour with another band, and they say, "Oh, you won't mind just coming and driving us while these guys are not doing any?" Yeah, of course, I'll do that. And then it all sort of branches out, and before you know it, then you sort of just go, "Oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll be a tour manager." What's a tour manager do? I don't know. They just collect the money at the end of the night, and that kind of thing. And there's no, back then there was no school for it or anything like that. It's just, what do you need me to do? And I'll do it. Some bands I was doing the sound, tour managing. I was selling the T-shirts from the sound booth, trying to like fighting people off, trying to steal T-shirts while I'm trying to mix the show, and it's just crazy, silly things like that. And then we all get into a van and stay in a travel lodge room with 17 people in it, and then do it all again.
Man, that sounds like a story out of like the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
Man, you're running the soundboard, elbowing people off of you and slinging shirts at the same time. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It's an actual, that's like roadie. The roadie that does everything kind of thing. Like, where's the roadie? He's over there fighting.
How long did you kind of play? How many years or how many months did you kind of live with that role?
It was quite a long time, and I don't know why. But it was there were people who I knew who lived in who sort of either lived locally, well, maybe not locally, but people who I knew from around the place who ended up like doing big tours really quick. Like their second tour would be an arena tour or a bigger. I was like, how did you do that? I've been driving around in bands for like 5 years. And then you guys are doing all this stuff. So it's but yeah, eventually someone trusted me enough with just one job and not having to multitask, and obviously got into guitars a little bit more, and so I headed off that way. There's too much responsibility with tour managing and all these other kind of jobs. So anything that's got a manager on the end is usually a thankless task. I've found.
It comes with extra headaches. Yeah, man.
Exactly.
So when did you, in theory, all along you're kind of tinkering with guitars, you're doing your own setups or whatever, but when did you kind of get serious? And I don't know if there's really a story there, or if you had an aha moment, or if it just by you saying yes to everything, that's how it worked out, over time.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It was just it was more of a gradual thing where I ended up, it was another, I'll look after your guitars, because that's where the band, whichever band I was working for at the time, sort of needed the help most. And obviously from playing guitar, I always enjoyed messing around with guitars anyway. And then somebody will bring in a new piece of equipment and you have to figure that out, or somebody brings in a new kind of guitar you've not seen before. They'll say, "Oh, the action's too high," or "It's fretting out here." So you kind of just figure it out as you go along, and then you kind of become the more problems you're presented with, you go, "Oh, I've experienced that before," and then you kind of get to refine a little bit more. And especially now that you've got the internet as well, you can just look problems up. Before it was kind of, has anyone got a book on that? Or there was the internet, but you have to go to like an internet cafe or something old school like that.
Yeah, you just can pull it up on your phone at the venue.
Yeah. You just go, what's that? Oh yeah, okay, I'll fix that. And then kids have got it easy.
Dude, man, just YouTube it. What so in that, kind of talk about that, most recently, and maybe for a long time now, kind of worked
Mhm.
with worked your way up, some bigger acts,
Yeah.
a little more elaborate production.
Mhm.
Also, in theory, that's going to come with more responsibility in terms of number of guitars that are on tour with a
Yeah.
band. Can I give a picture of what that looks like and the amount of work that goes into it, and then also maybe kind of what's kind of the day to day in terms of guitar tech when you're on tour? What are some of those daily tasks? And then one last question, if you remember all this, have you been on tour as a tech and someone hands you just like an unbelievable guitar and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to like put my hands on that, whatever, you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you have one of those stories. So that was like 8 questions in one, and whatever
Yeah.
you remember from those questions, just go for it.
Okay. Well, sort of. I mean, day to day, it's it, the real like to make your day easier. Preparation's the key, really. If you've got a load of guitars to look after, if you get at least one day just to look through everything, just and get on top of everything, rather than being thrown straight into it, that's an absolute godsend. Some bands I work for, they might do a couple of days just rehearsing, and that it's for you to rehearse as well, so I can work out where guitar changes go. How am I going to do this? How can I plan ahead on a set list, that kind of thing. So preparation's always a big help. And then if I am lucky enough to get that sort of preparation in, and I'm on top of everything, and I'm not kind of catching up, it makes your day to day a lot easier, because it's a long day anyway. You kind of usually start, maybe start at either maybe 10 midday, something like that, and then depending on how many guitars you have, on average, on a sort of bigger production, you might have anywhere between 8 or 10 guitars, maybe. Um, and if you're on top of it, then it makes your day so much easier. You're not struggling. It's like, oh my god, the band are going to be here any minute, and I've only restrung 2 guitars, or because I was fixing something else that needed fixing that I didn't get a chance to do before. You're constantly catching up, and then you get to the last day of the tour, you go, right, I'm ready to do a gig now. you know, or it can, but yeah, and then your day kind of goes all the way around to sound check. You'll line check everything out, so everything's working first. Then the band come in, they'll do the sound check, they'll make any tweaks they want, they'll tell you, can you change this or this, and then maybe get a little bit of downtime once you've done that, and then you're getting show ready and making sure everything's ready to go, and then once that's done, it's all back on the truck and do it all again. By that time, it's midnight, maybe later, depending on what kind of show you're doing. Sometimes in like hot places like Spain, or they have festivals a lot later, just because it's so hot in the daytime. Nobody wants to stand outside all day, so bands will be on later. So sometimes you might not go on until midnight, or 1:30 in the morning, and then you've got to get up at 7 to get a flight, or something interesting like that.
Yeah, bruiser schedule.
Yeah, it can happen. And then sometimes we have A and B rigs as well. So depending on if the truck can't make it to, if it's too far apart, then you have a duplicate set of gear. So you've got 2 completely separate everything. You've got separate amps, separate guitars. That's fun as well. A and B rig.
Have you found, this is maybe a naive question, I don't know, without throwing any artist under the bus, because certainly don't want to do that, but that most of the guys you've worked with are gals. are appreciative of what you do. I mean, because look, everyone started in their bedroom and then into a garage or their, whatever it is. Everyone started the same. Of course, at some point, with years and years of success and luxuries of having people do stuff for you, you can forget your roots.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if most that you've worked with have remained pretty humble or down to earth.
I would say, yeah. Usually, I mean, I usually find the longer people have done it, the more chilled out and cool they are, and they understand that that you're not a miracle worker. You can't make absolutely everything happen. But if they, again, it all comes down to preparation. If they give you the preparation time, you're more on top of your game, and you can serve them better. One of a better word.
Yeah, that makes sense. You never been in the position. Hey, man, you fix it. You didn't give me enough time.
Exactly.
You do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's what can you say? It all depends on budgets. Different bands have different budgets, so it all depends on how many days they can pay you for, and how tight things are. But yeah, no, you usually find I can't really think of a time when you get people who some people are indifferent. They're just like, yeah, thanks, whatever. Some people are really, really into all their equipment and they want to know every single thing, and some people are just like, just plug it in and make it work. I don't care. And like, yeah, that's great, no problem. With little to no instruction at all. Because I usually find that it's maybe like people who are in session, where it's not their band. They're just like, right, this person or this band want me to play X, Y, and Z just the same every night, and just make it happen. Like,
Yeah,
no problem.
Well, dude, speaking of everyone else's guitars, let's talk about some of your guitars. So I'll tell you what, in this case, why don't I'm going to make you full screen, and why don't you just kind of run through what you're, what you've got, what you are enjoying these days. And I don't know if you've got any, just you go there, man. And I'm going to make you full screen, and you just jump. Okay. I'll ask questions. And if you're off on showing something, I'll point that out to you. But
okay, no problem. That's
sweet,
fine.
Man. There you go. You got the floor.
So, after the SG, I got I didn't want to get, a lot of my friends went and they'd get Strats or Tellys or something like that, and I wanted something a bit different, and I ended up buying this Jazzmaster. It's a Japanese. I think it's 94. It's got no strings on it at the moment because I'm just giving it a little bit of TLC. But it's a tribute series. On the serial number, it has a T at the beginning, and I've never actually been able to figure out what the T and what the tribute to
who it is. Yeah,
if it's a tribute to somebody's guitar or a particular year or anything. I don't really know. I've spoken to many people from Fender, and they all said 90s Japanese, man. We have no idea. we just let them do whatever they want. I've spoken to the people in the Fender UK, Fender US. When I was bumped into them, and everyone's like, no idea. Sorry. We haven't got a clue. But yeah, weirdly, it was sold to me as well by a guy who I also ended up touring with years later, who worked in that guitar shop. So that was interesting. But yeah, it's great. And the thing I found as well with that I later found with the pickups in the sort of 90s, Japanese Jazzmasters is that they're made slightly different. They're where the regular Fender, well, like the American Fenders, are a lot more squashed, kind of pancake type coils. These ones are a bit higher, so it's a little bit more Strat sounding, which is interesting. I did change the bridge, which everybody does.
Yeah, shocker.
Yeah, no way. I didn't go for I've still not been convinced by some of the newer ones that are on the market. This one works fine. I can't remember what they're called now, but it's always been good. And I have got a ding on it as well, which I always regretted, where I dropped my first guitar onto my second guitar. Yeah, and I never got around to fixing it, but maybe I will do one day. Now I've got it for a bit of TLC, and it's got the matching headstock as well, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's really nice, and the necks on them are so nice to play. I'm not a massive Strat or Tele fan, because the necks are I don't like the C D shape sort of necks, and this one's a little bit flatter, and I can play so much better because I have humongous fingers. I'm bass player, born to play bass. So when it comes to guitar, especially jazz guitar, anything fiddly like that, there's no chance. My fingers just get tied up in knots. I'm like olive oil from Popeye. But yeah, this one I seem to be able to play. I can play a little bit better on this. So that's yeah, I do love it. And it's offsets, you know. Offsets always look cool, don't they? They're just,
yeah, man.
There's just something about them. I don't know why, but they're very cool. It's and he sounds great as well. So yeah, I love it. There we go. And try not to smash it into my neck.
No.
My next one is probably, this is my favorite. It's my 330 Rickenbacker, complete with my Hawaii sticker, which is I got that on my honeymoon in Hawaii.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, it's a Rickenbacker. They're my favorite brand. I just absolutely love them to pieces. One of my first bands I got into was REM, and I love what Peter Buck does. I always did, and I know he plays 360 a lot of the time, but just it was brilliant. And I bought this one I bought it from Chicago Music Exchange, which is probably the best guitar shop in the world, or at least one of them anyway. I walked into that shop, it was just, everyone's like, come on, you'll love it. I was like, yeah, it's a guitar shop, you know. And they're like, no, you've got to come to this one. Fine, okay. So I went over, and yeah, I was just absolutely blown away. And I was just walking around with this guitar just everywhere I went. I was looking at all the others, but I just for some reason would not let go of this one. And it ended up coming back with me.
So were you on tour when you walked into Chicago Music Exchange? Or were you?
I was. Yeah, I was on tour, and we all just went in on masse. I was like, yes, all right then.
Did you get to skip like having to clear it, you know, through customs? Did you load it on with the band's gear, or yeah? You know, there we go. You did not do that. I understand.
I don't know what you mean.
Right.
No, because there's only a certain amount of room in there. You know, it's there's all custom things. I don't understand that. That's why I don't do all the tour managing That kind of thing. It'll end up getting me locked up or something and separated from the guitar that I've just bought. But yeah, that's
that's awesome. Great story.
Yeah, it's great. I do, and such an amazing shop as well. And that is another great thing with with touring, is that you do get to visit these. I mean, the States has just got so many amazing guitar shops. Anyway, you can always find something, something really good. But yeah, this is definitely a high point.
I love it, man. That's great.
I bought the strap there as well, which they're also great. Have you seen Soldier? I think they're called.
I don't think I have. No.
Oh, they're absolutely. It's like as in Soldier.
Yes. Yep.
And they do kind of like nice, cool psychedelic, 70s sort of things. Actually handmade in Chicago as well. But they are. I always try and get them wherever I go, just because they look absolutely amazing.
And it looks comfortable too.
Yeah, absolutely. And couch as well. Have you seen those straps? Couch straps. They're really interesting. They do. They're kind of upcycled from old couches. They do. They're all vinyl, I think. Like from old bus seats and they just
sweet. I have it. I added it to my list of notes.
Yeah, they're really interesting. So yeah, I love them.
Sweet. What I know you've got a couple more back there. What's next on the list?
Next one is it's going to Gibson territory now. It's only a little it's a Melody Maker. I've had a lot of arguments with people about what this actually is. But I say it's a Melody Maker. Somebody said it's a Les Paul Junior. I was like, well, it can't be, because it's got two pickups, and then someone else said it's a special. I was like, well, the problem is it doesn't say anything, but I'm pretty sure it's a Melody Maker, and I'm sticking with that. What would you say?
I would say that you are a guitar technician for a living, and whatever you say, I'm not arguing with you, man. I was going to ask, who's arguing with you? Like,
you know guitars better than anybody. I see your posts all the time. I'm like, yes. I'm like, David's gonna know.
You know what? So when we're done, I'm gonna because I don't know. I'm gonna freeze frame. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna research. Those are the original pickups.
No, they're mine.
Okay. All right. Well, that doesn't make it easier to identify.
Well, it is the same covers though.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It is the same covers, so it's for all intents and purposes.
Okay, perfect. I'm on a mission now. Okay. My answer is probably going to end up being your answer, just for the record.
I hope so. I hope I'm. Is it vindicated or whichever? I don't know. But I hope so anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't cost that much, but I always have it around. It's great for recording because P90s are amazing. They are the best for me. I love them. They're the best kind of pickups because they're just versatile.
Yeah,
they do everything and they do it well, and they're nice and beefy. This one's really thin, like tiny. It's like a Les Paul but without the top. And it's really easy to play, and it only cost me £200 maybe. It was one of those fine. I mean, they're not really expensive anyway, and it's a 2011. So it was pretty much brand new when I got it. It was just an eBay thing, but I just love it to pieces. It's one of those guitars that I just have on the wall, and I can pick it up at any time and just be like, oh, what should I do? I'm just sort of play away. And I've been messing around with the sort of semi half capo kind of thing. It's good. I've been sort of doing all the dad gads kind of, because you like swap it around, so you can either do the dad gad if you do it that way, or you can do the open G if you do it the other way around. Except it's kind of like Dadgad or open G, 2 frets up.
Right, you just got to move everything a little bit.
Yeah, so it's open. It's actually open A, and E, B, E, A, B, E. Yeah. Wow.
And that's why you're the pro. You wrapped it off just like that.
Yeah, that's because I was looking. But yeah,
you've got this honey guitar that was, I mean, at the end of the day, pretty short money in the world of guitars, you know, and man, there's so many good ones out there, and there have been, but especially now that aren't a gazillion bucks, but it just goes to show it's all, you know, you can do everything you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have got another, I haven't got it with me, but it's a Les Paul. It's like it's a 1960 reissue. It's copy, and I mean that's absolutely fantastic. That was another great eBay find. I think it's like a 2005 model, something like that. But it's just, I absolutely love its pieces. It just sets up so nice. And the guy that I bought it from, I drove like 4 hours or something, because for years I was like, I'm gonna buy a Les Paul, but I'm gonna find one on eBay and it's gonna be cheap. So I think he was selling it for half the price. It had a bit of a headstock break, but whoever did it had done a really good repair on it already. But when I got to the guy's house and I plugged it in and I tried it, he was saying, I just can't get on with it. The action's too high. The switch had turned, you know, the pickup selector had turned around. And I was going, is that it? That's I was like, well, I think I'll find someone who can fix it then. I know a guy. So, and then after that, he pulled out his Epiphone Les Paul, and he just said, "Do you know what? I prefer this one." And I was, well, do you know what? I can't. If it's your favorite, it's your favorite. And he loved it. He loved it to pieces, and no judgment. That's it. You know,
that's great. What a great story.
Yeah, I was like, well, fine. I'll take this actual Les Paul off your hands. I'll take that home, and that was it. I was very, very happy with that one.
Oh man, it's so helpful when you can do all of your own work.
It really is. But a lot, I mean, it depends on, I suppose it's a little bit of confidence as well. Just a bit of, if you can mess about with your own guitars and find out what their limits are and what they're meant to, if you've got something to aim for, then I guess you can always aim for that. Not every guitar will play absolutely amazing, but there's just little things that you can do to get it that bit closer, you know. Just those tiny little tweaks can make a big difference.
Cool. When we were talking offline, I know you've got one or two more. It's your call. We can run through one or both or skip, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Well, all I've got, the other ones I've got my. In fact, I'm gonna turn that.
Yeah, go for
it. There's my P bass,
yes.
which I've. That's I think that's like 2014 or something, but it's got the neck on it again is really, I like really flat necks, and some people absolutely don't, but I love them because of my big stupid hands again. And that's just a Taylor, it's a GS Mini, which again, it's got a really flat neck, and it sounds great. It's just a good little guitar to have around the house when you want to mess about and just grab something quick. And I've got 5 minutes before a child jumps on me.
The
kind of thing.
Playing the bass, and I'll make us back here together. because of your gigantic hands, man, are you a pretty good bass player?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I'm just as average, but I don't trip up as much on bass as I do guitar. I think I have found if I sit down and play bass more, if I really sit down and like do my scales and concentrate and really, then after about a week or so, I would be better at playing bass than I would be playing guitar. Sitting down playing scales for a week, kind of getting up to scratch. Yeah, I'm just built that way.
Yeah, man.
I'm like 6'2", so I'm just a big giant. Stupid.
And there you were wanting to play jazz style guitar.
I know.
They're all
All the
confused.
guys, yeah, all the guys I know who can probably really shred and they were like absolutely amazing. They have like really, they have like small hands and they can just like get in there and just really absolutely nail every single note. Where I can I'll like fluff quite a few,
Yeah,
and not be as great. Drop D's my friend.
there you go, man. That's good. Well, all right. Well, let's talk about the northern pickups and we before we were talking about a few projects that kind of came up during COVID as being a professional tech and on tour wasn't happening. And some of your other projects so people can know about and where to find that. But you take it from there. Let's start with the pickups first because it's pretty trippy.
Yeah. Well, luckily in during lockdowns that we had over here in the UK, I managed to get a job at a local guitar repair shop that had just set up. I just poked my head in the door because it was in a place where I've got a storage unit where I keep all my guitars and amps and stuff. And I just poked my head in one day and we got talking and they gave me a job. So, and I learned, so many things there that I wouldn't normally have learned on tour because it's just being on tour is a perpetual thing. You constantly, when you freelance, same with any kind of freelance work, I guess you're constantly finding your own work and you have to keep going all the time and you never get to really stop. So once I got forced to stop, I ended up learning all these other cool little bits about guitars and, just those little, like I was saying, those little tweaks that just can make a big difference. But they had a pickup winder and we had some bits, some flat work and poles in to make a Strat pickup. So they were like, yeah, you can have a go on this. So, oh, I like this. I can, it's relaxing. Some people, I think with pickup winding, with like posts online and stuff like that, people have said, oh my God, how can you do that? It's awful. And it's like you can. There's two ways you can go with it. You either love it or hate it because you are just sitting there just watching this thing spin round, and you've got this hair thin wire that could, just too much tension and you could break it at any point. But once you kind of get over that fear, it's relaxing. I can sit there and I'll kind of, sort of out a little bit and but yeah, so once I kind of looked a bit more into it, because I've always kind of, with pickups, it had always been someone had just give me a set and they go, can you change these in my guitar? I go, yeah, fine, there you go. But once I got into all the variables that there are to make different sounds, that was it. I was like, right, I have to know everything and I have to get into everything, and I want to do it. So I did. I found all these about all the basic kind of pickups, the P90s, the humbuckers, the single coils, and all the different the different ways that people have made them over the years and what makes one different from another. And I thought, right, there's a lot of companies out there where you can buy in the parts and stuff. I'm like, right, I reckon I can do this as a sort of offshoot of what I normally do. And then by the beginning of this year, I've started doing it. So it's there now. It's still a new thing, and I'm still kind of finding my way around it. But it's it's fun.
That's cool, man. And it's something. It's so funny. It's like your guitar tech. Guitars are obviously a passion, but I won't say that it sounds to me that you discovered a new one, but potentially so, in the sense that, I mean, you're just super digging it. You're in the flow. You're in the zone. It's relaxing, and you're creating tone in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that sort of kind of learning from, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, really, with stuff, with stuff like that, because there's the guys who figured it out originally. They're just, they're just amazing. And then being able to, plus there's been so many people who have made great pickups, along, sort of third parties, people like Seymour Duncan. I mean, his story, that guy has done so much research on pickups, like literally sitting there and counting the winds on, someone brought them into him and said, oh, can you fix this pickup? And he was like sitting there and right, this is a 1965 Stratocaster, and I'm going to count every single wind on it while I'm repairing it. It's like, man, the amount of patience and dedication that goes into that thing, and that's why these guys are huge, because they've put that work in, and that's you've got to respect that. And I wanted to, there's no way you can really go. All you can do is create a good product and be able to tweak things to how people like, because I've got stock stuff that I do, and then, but pretty much I would say 90% of people who've bought stuff haven't just gone, right, I'm going to buy this direct from the website. I'm going to phone you up or send you an email and say, can you do this? Can you tweak this for me? Or, because that's what it's all about now. It's all about customizing it, and if you can do that, and then you can give people suggestions. Like there was a guy phoned me up a couple of days ago wanting a set of Jazzmaster pickups, but he wanted something a bit different. So you can tailor that for people, and it's kind of nice to be able to do that. It's good fun. It's the variables that I like.
It is, man. I'm thinking back of stories in time from when, let's say, the 50s or 60s, when quality control wasn't very tight, and the standard, whatever it looks like, and that's where some of that tone and that sound comes from, because like someone didn't hit the stop button, right? It was like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and it got this little bit, and it sounds like this. It's like, can you standardize this? Can you not? But that's how fulfilling it sounds when you can guide someone in the right direction or create what they're asking for, and it works. That sounds
absolutely. Yeah, it's great. It's kind of it's rewarding when it's finally done, and you can send it to somebody, and they can, hopefully they'll like it. Some people, you send it out and you never hear anything, and then some people are like, this is amazing. Like I made one for a friend of mine, like a Telecaster pickup, but he's like, I want it really beefy, like a P90. So I was like, all right, that's a bit of a challenge, but it's something, you got something to aim for. And then you can, all right, I'll try that. So then he loved it to pieces. So then he said to another friend, he's like, oh, you should get Dave to do some pickups for you, and then you've got little, you can sort of experiment a bit with your friends. You go, hey, try this, you know, see what you think.
That's for Northern Pickups. Where can people find you online? What's the website?
northernpickups.co.uk.
Sweet. I will also add that in the intro. As part of the podcast description, I'll put that in too. So
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man. And I know you've got a couple of other projects, but maybe one, the DJW Songs production.
Yeah.
You know, your commercial catalog of music. Talk about that song. I'm real fascinated by that.
Well, that kind of came about from just wanting to get better at recording music. When I had downtime on tour, I'd always have a little interface on my laptop with me, and I kind of ended up building it into my toolbox where I can just plug a guitar in, plug my laptop in, and just record a bit of music. And then I ended up recording these kind of little sort of just 2-minute instrumental songs because I'm a shocking singer. I know I can't sing. So that's.
I hear you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I always say it's one of my best talents is knowing that I can't sing, because some people don't. You know, some people don't know they can't sing, and it's excruciating.
It's true, and they still get on stage somehow. You know,
yeah,
like,
some people do. You know, but I'm lucky that I don't. It's few and far between when that happens, but. Yeah, and even then, they're still better than anything that I could ever do. So, but yeah, so I was like, well, I make up, and then I was kind of thinking, well, what is instrumental music good for anyway? And it's on, you know, it's everywhere. You just don't realize it a lot of the time. It's in adverts and stuff like that. So I kind of built up a catalog, and then went back through old stuff that I had, and because I'd stopped playing in bands years ago, and that never really happened, but I still had all this music. I was like, well, got to do something with it, and kind of just picked apart all the genres that there were that I could sort of catalog into different things, and just ended up putting it online. And some people picked it up, and each, you know, a lot of songs are in different other people's catalogs somewhere, and you get a royalty statement every now and then saying someone in Brazil played this on a radio station, or, you know, something mad like that. It's always fun to watch. I mean, it's one of those things with that kind of music, you have to be constantly doing it to make any kind of living at it. You've got to be constantly churning out music every day, just sitting there, and also sending it off to people, promoting it, you know, and then building up a name for yourself, because you can do it, but it takes a lot of your time up to be able to do that. And then all the other stuff that I'd written that wasn't really that commercial, or you couldn't really, that I just liked, I ended up putting that out as a separate as a record label, you know, just like kind of like set up a record label, and just went, well, there's all the other stuff that's never going to be in an advert, because it's either too obscure, or it's too heavy, or too bad jazz.
You never know. Yeah, it's you know, to your point about kind of the music beds, the song beds.
Yeah.
Just in the kind of the podcast world that we live in now, and kind of the content creation that so many people do, you need these things. Like, where do you go to find it? So there's so much more of a, and that's on kind of the low level, if you will, let alone the much more professional stuff that you also know exists, that is still under the radar. But I would imagine that market now is so different than what it was 15 years ago. You know,
I mean, especially with the internet, you can send your music to anybody, anywhere, instantly. It's, you know, that I imagine before, you could be sending out CDs, and, like, 2 or 3 weeks later, you're like, has it arrived yet? So yeah, now it's just because of that, it's so much people. Yeah, people do expect a lot more, a lot quicker as well.
Yeah, for better or worse, right?
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, that's true.
do you want to talk about Velvet more on records at all? We talked about
Yeah,
it a
well,
little bit.
that was the same. Yeah, that was what I ended up doing, was just putting out my own music, and then some friends, they were like, "Oh, can you do that for us as well?" I was like, "Well, I was just putting it online just so it's there, not really trying to push anything or trying to do anything with it. It was just because I had some music and it was sitting there, and I didn't want it to. Thought, well, maybe at least one person might listen to it, or somebody might listen to it, you know."
Yeah.
And then some friends who were actually in bands doing stuff, they were like, "Oh, well, we don't really know how it works, how you get your music online and stuff." I was like, "Well, okay, I'll do it." And then, it became somebody else. Like, lots of people started asking. I'm one of these people who can't say no. So there was like, oh my God, there's a lot of people really asking me and I can't say no. Oh my God. Because the whole point of it was to help people to have just to have that platform, to just to have a band starting out, or even a sort of established band, just to have something where they can, well presented, where they can say, right, we've got a small record label deal now, but we want a bigger one. So they can say, look, we've already got a record deal, but you can give us a bigger one. And that's kind of where that ended up going. But I think a lot of people expected, I don't know if they expected more from me, or just more from the experience of having a record label, because they then thought they didn't have to do anything. They don't have to. Some bands, don't get me wrong, the bands who always did well, who got more sort of streams and sales, were the bands who played live and actually went out and did stuff themselves. And you could tell there was a massive difference when you get a sales or a streams report from distributors and stuff. You could see that the people who actually put the effort in and who didn't, and the people who went, well, we've got a record deal, why aren't we famous? Dave knows famous people. Why is he not making us famous? I'm like, well, I would have done that with me and my music. Why aren't I famous? I know famous people. That must be it. That's the key. It's like, well, no, because the famous people who I work for are out there plugging themselves, and they do it all the time. That's their job. That's your daily job. If you want it to be, then you've got to go out and make it happen.
Yeah, you have to work it yourself.
Yeah, because you're self-employed. Basically, it's nobody goes out there, and there's no interviews in the job section for a pop star. Please, we need someone to be a pop star. You've got to kind of do it. There's nobody, and
Yes.
it's a weird one. But yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. Yes, and maybe a little sign of the times with internet fame and how things can blow up, and you gotta work it, and it's 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not
I mean that is the thing that's not changed, I suppose, is that you've still got to do it. You've still got to. Nobody's going to come and knock on your door and go, "Hey, you playing guitar in your bedroom? You sound pretty cool." He don't work like that. You've just got to keep trying. And it's harder these days as well. I see it a lot with younger bands who they've got such a big hill to climb, because now record companies, they want to buy their fans. They're not really. It's not always the case, but they were. It's like, well, how many Instagram followers have you got, or how many streams have you got online? It's it's not quite the same as just going out there and playing to anybody who will listen. and just sending a CD or a tape off, I guess. And because I think there's a lot less companies who don't want to take any risks. So before, back when I first started touring, there were so many bands that just get a huge record deal because they go, oh yeah, fine, we'll take a risk on these guys. And now it has to be a really safe bet. So that ends up changing the music that people make, because they go, well, to get a big record deal these days, it's got to be a safe bet. So we've got to make safe music, something that's inoffensive and gonna sell millions of records. You can't be a little punk band and do that anymore now. It's a lot harder.
And that's a shame. And that's a whole nother podcast, because how many stories have you read about of your favorite band or of X, Y, and Z? Hundreds that when they were found, somebody took a risk, took a gamble. Exactly. And like the way we know the world of music, 90% of it is that way. And safe is boring.
It is. It really is. It really is.
Dude, well, on that note, we'll save that for version 2.0, man. A whole nother conversation, dude.
All the random.
Man, it's been a blast. Great conversation, great insight. For everyone that's listening or watching, if you haven't seen, I will link all of Dave's projects into the description of the podcast, so you can find out more about Dave White and what he's up to there. Dave, thanks, brother, for your time.
Thank you.
You were welcome, man. Listen, I'll close us out. Thanks everybody for watching and or listening. I'm a couple clicks out, Dave. We'll sign off, and I'll see you in just a second.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the Guitar Gavel podcast, and a special thanks to Steve Kuykendall for composing this music and being such the great guy and friend that you are. As a reminder, hit the subscribe button and sign up for our twice weekly newsletter at guitargavel.com.